And let's now catch up on the WTA side of things because we did have Aryna Sabalenka defeating Coco Gauff to win the title in Madrid for the third time. Straight sets, this one was. And Sabalenka seems to like winning this title in consecutive years because she won it in 2021, 2023, and now she's back again, getting it done in 2025. But yeah, world number one, cementing her status, winning this title for the third time and her 20th title overall. Chris, how impressed were you by what you saw from Sabalenka in that final over Coco on Saturday?
I was really impressed with her. I think that the first set, especially, I think she played, really well all week, and she's had a few sort of hiccups. It hasn't necessarily been, despite her sort of rankings tally and how dominant she has been, or it feels like she's been. I do think that there's been a couple of disappointments along the way, like the Stuttgart final, for example. She didn't get all of her own way at the Sunshine Double either. So I think it's good to see her kind of getting these titles because I've always feel with her that she does have probably the biggest game on the tour. And when she plays her A game, she will win matches. And Australia slipped away from her as well, kind of to be added to that list. So when she does get these big titles, I think it's just because she is playing better than everyone else. I think that is her limit is higher in terms of where she could go. So I enjoyed it. I think it wasn't necessarily the highest quality final I've ever seen. I think some of those double faults from Coco Gauff, I think it went up to something just under 10, maybe it was 8, something like that. Um, that was a little bit of a problem for her in the first serve and second serve. We get taking a little bit of a battering at times, but I still just think that it was a good final. And I mean, Aryna Sabalenka is the world number one for a reason.
Absolutely. And Coco Gauff did make the second set much closer. The first set was a bit one-sided, but she did have a set point in the second set. But Sabalenka managing to get that one and get the job done in at 7-6, in a tie break. But yeah, they've got quite an interesting rivalry, haven't they? Goff came into this 5-4 in their head to head, and obviously, could have gone to a third here. Maybe Goff could have turned it around, but I don't know. It's a rivalry that gives us some great matches. It's quite a close rivalry, but
Mm.
I don't know. Where are you looking for the rest of the season from these two players should they meet again? What is it about their matchups that kind of is brings these kind of quite close encounters or kind of a sort of up and down result and outcome?
I think with Coco Gauff, I think her movement means that she's always a player from the baseline that you expect her to kind of get one more ball back. And in my view, for Sabalenka, that's one more ball that could be, an unforced error, or a ball into the net or a ball long or whatever. And I think that's why it's such a compelling matchup because she really tests Sabalenka on that kind of patience, staying in the rally and not kind of going for the winner, I think, straight away. I do think some of their matchups in the past have maybe been a little bit kind of, topsy turvy, and it's in, I think, similar with this matchup. It wasn't necessarily the best tennis from both of them, but having said that, I think Coco Gauff coming into Madrid, she got bageled in her first match, in her first set she played here. So to come all the way through, to the final, no disgrace in losing to Aryna Sabalenka. I think she'll just be happy that, she's back to really kind of where she belongs, and she could even, be number 2 seed come the French Open.
Yeah, that's still up for grabs, isn't it? And Sabalenka dominating this season. It's about kind of who amongst everyone else is going to be that second seed, basically at Roland-Garros, which we'll get onto in a bit. I mean, Sabalenka, she has the chance so far, well, this year to go for the all-time WTA points record for the season. I mean, we're only in May, and she's on 11,118 points. And we've had previous players like Serena and Iga Swiatek only just a bit higher than that in previous years. They're the only 3 women to have ever gone
Mm.
over 11,000 points,
It's
which
a lot
is
of points, Kim, isn't it? It
it's
really is.
crazy.
It's
It really
not the
does show
race,
how
though.
dominant. No, it's not the race, but it just shows how dominant like she has been. Even against top 10 players this year, she's not lost so far. So obviously she lost to Keys in the AO final. She has lost matches, but against the real core top players, she's coming out on top, and just making sure she's going deep at all these tournaments, and that it's shown in the points, isn't it?
It takes an inspired effort to beat her, and I think it is shown by the fact that the top 10 can't get it done. Whereas some of these outside players like Ostapenko or surprise packages, I think like Clara Towson as well, they really do play their A game against the number one. Serena always said that people play their best against you. There's a target on your back. And I think she plays very well with that target on her back. So let's see what she can do. I think Joel made the point she didn't play Wimbledon last year when we caught up earlier.
Well, do you think she can take over from Serena?
Well, she's got 2,000 points to gain there. Serena in 2013 was on 13,650.
That is a lot of points
as world number one. So if Sabalenka can gain about 2,500
improve from a
points,
quarterfinal at the French,
improving on last year.
I mean, are we just talking about that level of dominance? Are we getting to a point where anything other than a French Open title is going to be a disappointment to Aryna Sabalenka?
Yes. I think so, because if she's playing her best tennis, she wins the tournament. I think coming runner-up in a tournament, I think you can see the disappointment. She jokes about it, but if you're as good as she is, there will be the sense that you probably could have won that match, or you probably should have won that match. So I think that's the case. I think it's such a different scenario that, I mean, we were talking about, Iga Swiatek going into these sorts of parts of the season thinking, you said 2024, Iga was on 11,600 points, and now times have really changed. It's now Sabalenka who really has the edge, and that was such a close race for so long. And now you'd argue, I mean, the favourite for Roland-Garros, we put it to the polls, didn't we? And the results came back resoundingly, Kim, didn't they?
50% said Aryna Sabalenka as the favourite for Roland-Garros. And you might think, oh, what about Swiatek, multiple Roland-Garros champion? She was only down at 15% of the vote.
Wow.
And Coco Gauff was on 17%, and other had 18%.
So that's Sloane Stephens and Naomi Osaka is other, right?
Or Ostapenko, perhaps.
Ostapenko, Svitolina.
I mean, we do have to talk about Iga Swiatek because her struggles continued in the semi-final. She got blasted off the court, quite frankly, by Coco Gauff, 6-1, 6-1. I mean, it's been a long time since Swiatek's only won 2 games in a match, especially, on a clay court. It's bizarre. And Coco Gauff now against Swiatek, she's won the last 3 matches against Swiatek. It was not that way in their head-to-head previously. And yeah, Gauff obviously managing to get the win in quite comprehensive fashion. What's going on for Swiatek? She has now lost the last 6 semi-finals she's been in the last year. Does she need some time off? Do you think it's sensible for her to even play Roland-Garros, given that she's kind of maybe not at the races?
Oh, that's a very big question.
She's got to play. I mean, she's got to play.
That would be admitting defeat, wouldn't it?
It would be.
If she missed it.
She's got to play as the defending champion. Certainly with the grass court season, there might be more of a conversation there. And it's been interesting to hear that there are rumours that she might take a break and not play Wimbledon, not play the grass court season. And I think that would maybe be a smart opportunity.
Where did you hear these rumours, Joel? This sounds very intriguing.
Well, this is from I've heard it.
Does she think grass is for the golf as well?
There's some Polish reports in the press, I think. But I think just at the moment, for me, the way I'm kind of looking at how Swiatek is playing, I still think the consistency is there, and she's still reaching the deeper end of the tournaments that she is playing in. But when it comes to those matchups with the players around her that might have been a formality or a comfortable victory, a few seasons ago, last season, it's just not there anymore. And she doesn't necessarily have, I think, that winning edge or that ruthlessness that she once had. And some of the kind of mutterings I hear, from her on the court, and I've been reading about, having her head under a towel during the changeover. I think as much it is maybe about her tennis, I think mentally as well, it just feels like it's all coming to a head here. There's lots of pressure on her. We're reaching boiling point because it's the clay season. She's got lots of points to defend, and it really feels like it's impacting her game. And the way the team is set up at the moment, it doesn't feel like it's conducive to her winning titles, not necessarily playing tennis and getting to a semi-final, but beyond that stage, they've really lost that winning edge.
Tennis is a confidence game, though, and I think it's clear that she doesn't have the confidence that she did have when she was winning matches, and she isn't going out there as though she's going to win matches. I think she was so famous for her fast starts, and really now that first set, I mean, she got bageled by Keys. she did manage to turn that one around. She is still a fantastic player, a player of incredible pedigree, but it is definitely a case that, since that ban that she had from the contaminated product, as well as her coach that she'd been with for a considerable period of time, Wojciechowski, who had been with her for, 3 years, all of her, well, not all of her, but most of her big successes. That was a very established partnership, and that ended very abruptly around that time. And I think that's something that when she had such a perfect record almost, and she is a perfectionist, and then you lose that team, and then you start to lose matches, I think you realize that the standard that you hold yourself to and the standard that everyone else holds you to is actually not helping you necessarily.
Yeah.
I think
it's not healthy, is it?
it's not healthy. And I think probably it's a case that if she does start losing matches and she does lose the French Open, I think it might be in some ways a relief for her that then she can move on and rebuild herself as a player, as a person, maybe, and maybe look at who's in her team. But I mean, it is concerning it's happening on clay. I think if this was on any other surface, I think we would be treating this a bit differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's something why we are reacting the way that we are. It's not because we think that she won't necessarily win a Grand Slam again. It's that this is quite shocking compared to where we have been at this time of the season.
Would you want to see Swiatek skip the grass court season, skip Wimbledon, if it's going to help her pause, reflect, take time off? Or do you think she should push through?
I would take some time if the French Open, even in fact, whatever happens with the French, I would take
regardless
some time.
Of results in Rome. Yeah, French Open.
Yeah, I think you've got to stop chasing something, and I think she's got to realize what she's trying to play for and what she's trying to peak for. And is it about being number one and those records, or is it about getting in another slam or just winning Roland-Garros each year, whatever it might be? And the grass is not her favorite surface. She doesn't always love playing it, and if you're low on confidence, I really wouldn't want to put a player in that sort of a position. I think it's like Naomi Osaka going into the clay a few years ago, where she pulled out because of the scrutiny she was under from the press and from the public. She didn't feel confident there, and she'd never been put in that position by her team that she felt she had to play it. So I hope the decision comes from her, and I hope it comes from a place that she feels better for doing it. And I think if you take the Jannik Sinner situation, you don't miss as much as you think if you take some time out. This isn't life and death in this situation, and I think that it would do her good to have perspective outside of the sport, because Casper said it's a hamster wheel and you never get off it.
Yeah, and also she did have some recent bereavement, didn't she? With her grandfather's, recently lost. So I think that probably had some influence on the result in Madrid. But it sounds like she's dealing with a lot.
Yeah,
and there is, there are stories of success there. I think about Amanda Anisimova, and how what she went through, sort of paused, on her career, came back, and I think that's a kind of a success story there that maybe Iga Swiatek could look at in terms of tennis isn't the be all end all. Let's have a break.
Have experience outside of tennis. That's also what kept Serena and Venus so good, was that they had interests outside of tennis. And I think that's where it gets a little bit unhealthy. And we look at the documentary with Carlos Alcaraz, and I think he needed sometimes to go and party in Ibiza or whatever it may be. I think obviously for Iga, a lot of it is about tennis, but then she did come down quite hard on herself when she went to the Eras tour and then didn't do as well as she thought she would do. I think at Wimbledon, you think, hang on a minute, everyone, like these are young individuals who are at the top of their sport. I think everyone needs a break, and everyone needs to be cut a break. And I think probably with this Iga, sort of the hate train that she gets online and all of the things that you see, it's going to reach a head at some point, no matter how resilient you are. Well, unless you're Jannik Sinner, and then you can play through anything.
Is Coco Gauff the biggest threat now to Aryna Sabalenka and the French Open? Do you think she's taken over from Iga Swiatek with what she's done in Madrid?
Well, the stats say no, don't they? They say it's going to be someone outside the top 10. So I might pick an upset on her way to that potential title. What do you think, Kim?
I mean, well, the second seed for Paris it's either going to be Gauff, Pegula, or Swiatek.
Oh,
so
Pegula,
I don't
second
know how
seed on the clay. That's tasty.
Feel about that. Yeah, I think
who needs it most?
Sure,
do you think Swiatek
needs what most? The title.
The second seed.
Oh, it's hard to know.
Maybe need it. I think.
I feel like it depends.
Maybe Pegula, because she hasn't got the clay pedigree. That could be it. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I feel like the second seed is going to be irrelevant, though.
If all the seedings are irrelevant because anyone could win on the WTA, then maybe, just get in the draw and that's enough.
I
It's not
still
worth
think
obsessing over it.
I think Swiatek needs that. She needs to put a good performance in Rome.
You could still draw like Emma Raducanu round one. You could draw. There are so many dangerous players out there. It could be Osaka.
I do think there are positive stories for Swiatek in Madrid. The fact that she came back from a bagel down, for example, against Keys was a great result. She was battling 3-set victories. Good win over Schneider, who was playing well.
She's four in the race. Like we shouldn't be panicking.
It just feels like we're getting to the semi-final stage, and what is happening? 0-6 in semi-finals since Roland-Garros last year. Really big.
That's a Maria Sakkari stat, isn't it? It feels like
not good.
Not good for her. But let's see. This could be even more fascinating in Paris, right?